evening, everyone. Welcome to Joe and Ro Talk Toastmasters, a podcast designed by Toastmasters for Toastmasters, friends, guests, anyone and everyone out there who's interested in communication, public speaking, leadership, and much more. I'm Joanne Joseph from Palawa Toastmasters Club, along with my co-host, distinguished Toastmaster Ron Billy Moria from Karga Toastmaster Club. We welcome you to this podcast, the first episode of year 2024, but sixth episode of season 2, Lead to Serve. First of all, let me take this opportunity to wish you guys a very happy new year. I hope every single person, Toastmaster or not, viewer or not, has a fantastic 2024 filled with learning, leadership, and a fantastic communication year. This year is special for Toastmasters out there. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It is the century or 100 years of celebration because we have been completing 100 years in Toastmasters. And 2024 is going to be a special year. And what better way to start the year and start the season episode of 2024 than by calling out our guest today. I know every guest on this podcast is special to me, but tonight, let me tell you, the guest who's there with us is even more special. First of all, I have absolutely no idea about her. I have never met her in person. I have never spoken with her in person. But imagine the excitement I have today, guys, because I've heard so much and so much good things about this person that I cannot tell you how excited I am right now just to start the podcast. Before I introduce her, before I talk about the podcast, few ground rules. This is a three-way communication, guys, not an interview, not an education session. So sit back, relax, grab your cup of coffee and tea, and just enjoy this conversation and all the learnings that we are going to get today in the next 1 hour. Now, who is this special person? When we started Joe and Ro, I remember Ron telling me we have to call her on the podcast. You're going to learn so much. You're going to hear these wonderful stories, and you need to call her. And we are so sorry that it took us so much time to bring you in. Distinguished Toastmaster, Madam Mukta Nadkar. Now, those of you know her, she needs absolutely no introduction. But for those who don't know her, you just need to listen to this introduction and you will know what I'm talking about. Let's start with her Toastmasters background. She has been in the organization for 18 plus years, and she says that she has learned so much and made so many friends. Now, that's interesting. Friendship is very important in Toastmasters. She has served as a club officer for 20 terms and as a district officer for 6 years. She was a president, distinguished area and division governor. She was awarded the best division director of District 98 in Hyderabad. She has served as the district chief judge and as program quality director. She was awarded the Excellence in Program Quality by Toastmasters International. Here's the catch, my dear friend. She was the first women district director of District 98. And in her term, the district had the highest membership payments in the world. She has reached the finals of the International Speech Contest twice at district level. She has helped in sponsoring, mentoring, and coaching several clubs in India as well as Saudi Arabia. Wow. That was so much. And this is just about Toastmasters. There's so much more to Madam Mukta Nadkar, even beyond Toastmasters. She's a social person who loves to engage with people. And in her spare time, she loves to read, play Scrabble, and travel. She has had a very diverse life, lived in different countries, studied in different schools, worked in different industries and institutions. But she says one thing that remains constant is her love for living and learning. And I think her whole career and her experience in Toastmaster is a proof that yes, she's still loving to live and learn. Now, before I come to you, Mukta ma'am, and start the podcast officially, I want to go to Ron because all I've heard, all the great things I've heard about you has come to me from Ron. Ron cannot stop praising you. So Ron, tell us something about Mukta ma'am that not much is known, like not many people know about her. Tell us something about her.
I don't think I can tell you something which is not known because she is well known across the district and outside our district in the Toastmaster world also. In fact, when I told a few friends outside the district that she was coming on, they were really thrilled. I think they might also join the podcast. I've known Mukta for a very long time. And if you want to have an example of what a servant leadership is, it's her. Basically, you just read through all a biography in Toastmasters, amazing record in Toastmasters. But more importantly, as a human being, she's amazing. She's always been a good friend to me. We've always welcomed me with a smile and a kind word and encouragement. And I think with everybody, she's like that. So I think it's not only important to be an amazing Toastmaster, it's very important to be an amazing human being, which is what Mukta is. And I'm very, very proud to call her my friend. And I'm also very, very happy that she's come on this podcast and is going to share her wisdom with us today. And the amazing experience that she has, I'm sure we'll learn a lot. So over to you, Joanne, and welcome, Mukta. Great to have you.
Thank you so much, Ron and Joe.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Mukta ma'am, to the show. It's an honor, it's a privilege to have you here. Now that we have established that, let me just ask you one thing. 18 years plus of Toastmasters experience. Let me take you back to when it started, how it started, and why did you join Toastmasters?
So first of all, Happy New Year to everyone who's here. It's just wonderful to start the year doing a podcast with both of you. Really, I'm honored, and I was nervous, but nonetheless very excited. So, Joe, although I say I've been a Toastmaster for 18 years, I really joined Toastmasters 31 years ago.
Wow.
So it was in 1992 that I actually joined Toastmasters and stayed in Toastmasters for 2.5 years. But then there were circumstances which did not allow me to remain in Toastmasters. And then I rejoined in 1998. Somewhere there. So it's been a long time. Now, why did I join Toastmasters? How did I hear about it is another interesting story. My husband, Shirish, who's here today, had just got a job in Saudi Arabia in 1991, post the Gulf War. And when we went and everybody says, you're going to the Gulf, especially Saudi Arabia, it was like, what am I going to do? And then by accident, I found a college friend of mine. And her husband spoke so beautifully. Always, every word was enunciated, and there was always a purpose and style in his speaking. And he said, would you like to come to an organization called Toastmasters? There's such a variety of people. And I was dying to make friends. All I wanted in a foreign country, and especially one like Saudi, was to have friends outside of the office. So I go to this Toastmasters club, and I meet friends from all over the world because you had such an international community over there. There were Lebanese, there were Americans, South Africans, Australians, and everybody was there for the same reason. And at first, what started off as just wanting to make friends, like they say, that is history. And I have grown and migrated into learning to be a fairly good speaker, and then took up leadership roles. So that is where it all began, my learning and love of Toastmasters in a place that you won't believe, like in Saudi Arabia. That's where I started. And there were such restrictions for women, joining hands with men in a meeting. Often we were raided by the religious police for being together, and then we had to find venues that were a little more secure for us to meet. But exciting times, and really the seed was sown then, and the hardships or the what we went through is really a learning in itself, because we never had a venue, and somebody would be carrying the banner and somebody would be carrying all the material, and one day somebody from the American embassy would offer their premises for a meeting, and then somebody from another compound. So it was really exciting, but that's where the bonding started, that when you go through all these difficult situations and not just meet in a very fancy environment and in a office hall or whatever, that is the excitement with which I started my journey.
Wow. What's coming into my mind right now, Ron? How easily, we take it for granted, and we don't value the fact that right now communication is so easy. All you have to do is pay your membership fee, join any club around the globe, online, offline. You have these choices. Absolutely no challenges about the venue or about even raiding by the police, the religious police, nothing doing. So I was thinking 100 years of Toastmasters history. What are the challenges that people would have faced in the past 100 years and the past 18 years, like Mukta said, just in 1998 and 1992, just to be able to freely talk and communicate?
Yeah,
So
we,
much
we are
progress.
we are standing on the shoulder of giants, as they say, and all the generations of Toastmasters that come before us have made this possible for us. And I'm sure Mukta, knowing Mukta, you must be still be friends with all those people you met in Saudi Arabia years ago. Yes?
I am.
Yeah, yeah,
You know
I'm
how
sure.
I am with friends,
Yes, yes.
friends of 50, 60 years. That's how I am. I never break a
That's really
friendship.
amazing. That's
And
really amazing.
I am in touch with most of my Toastmaster friends from the 90s. And we still meet at conferences and etc. Yeah.
Amazing.
So, like, Mukta madam, you are the first women district director of District 98. Were you always a leader? Were you a born leader? Were you a leader before in your career? And then the transition to being a leader in Toastmasters was too easy for you? Or was it a challenge, something new for you in Toastmasters to become a leader?
Uh, it was absolutely a challenge because my career, my personal career, which spanned over 32 years, was in teaching, in hoteliering, and in entrepreneurship. And in teaching, you're dealing with little kids, and of course, you're leading them, teaching them, all the values and all the knowledge giving and sharing. As a hotelier, I again was in the HR department, and I was training staff for like the front office or for the restaurant or for housekeeping. So it was a solo, lonely job. I was not leading a team, or I didn't know. I only knew how to give, how to serve, how to empower others with knowledge. And then even as an entrepreneur, I was doing corporate gifts. And again, it was a solo business, which I did for over 20 years. And there again, I didn't have a team to lead. So getting into Toastmasters was my first soiree with leadership. It began at the club level when I first decided, now enough of communication, let's help, let's give, let's impart knowledge, let's share what I can, and started taking up leadership roles in the club. And then one thing led to another. And when I was well established at the club level, when I had a little more confidence, I ventured into for the area governorship. In those days, it was area governor and not area director. And a very interesting thing, Ron and Joe, is that when I stood for area governor, it was an elected position. It was not an appointment. So right from there, I have been subjected, or I have been part of the electoral process, where even for area director, one had to stand for elections. But the entire district didn't vote for the area director. It was only the area council that voted for the area directors. But so when I won that first position and then became a president's distinguished area governor, that really got me excited. And from then, I've never looked back and just wanted to give, share, and take up multiple leadership roles wherever I can, whenever I can. In fact, very soon after I stepped down from district director, I went back to being sergeant at arms in my club.
Big
And
promotion for you.
And I said, why not start the journey all over again?
You started in which district?
I started in District 79.
79.
Which was 8 countries, right from Oman, UAE, Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Lebanon. So
When did you come to 41?
I was never in 41.
You were never in 41. Okay.
When I returned, that was the first year of District 98.
Or
Or was it
I
41?
remember seeing you in one of the 41
maybe
conferences.
maybe in Goa, I think maybe it was 41 when Prasad Sobani was the district
You become division
governor.
director in one of the things. Was it in 41?
Yeah, but that was in 98 under
Okay.
Chandra. Yeah.
Under
So,
Chandra. Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
that was definitely 98.
People are
Okay.
talking about things happening in 98 and we
Yeah,
are in 2024. Let me bring you back to 2024. Let me bring you back to the present. Though I'll tell you, it's amazing to just sit and listen to you guys both bickering. You know, was it 41? Was it 98? It shows the deep friendship that both of you share. But coming back to the present, you said as a teacher, you were teaching toddlers about values, and that caught my eye because, or rather, ear, I must say, that caught my ear because today the topic is leading with values. You, I think, are a very authoritative figure when it comes to leadership in Toastmasters with your experience, vast experience. What do you think is values? Can you define values in your own personal way? What do you think is values? And is values very important in leadership?
Absolutely, without a doubt. The most important thing. You can have all sorts of attributes. You can have tremendous knowledge, charisma. You can have everything. But if you don't have those fundamental basic values, which are inbuilt, inborn, and which are really sacrosanct, without them you cannot. In fact, Thomas Jefferson says that if you are true to integrity, and if you have integrity, you can be a good leader, but without it, you will never be a good one. So having integrity is a good thing for a leader, but if you don't have it, you can never be a good leader. So you can have everything else. You can have the knowledge, the skill set, everything when you go to work, or whether it's in our organization or whether it's in any institution. But that key fundamental thing is integrity. And I'll tell you how important it is and how. I'll give you an example in my leadership journey. There was a time when I was the district chief judge. As you know, it is a non-credit role in our organization. But I wanted everybody to have the best contest experience. And there were certain rules, and you have to abide by that contest rule book, which again is our Bible for conducting contests. And then I was told that, our new term begins on the 1st of October or in the 1st of April, and only those who have paid their membership are members in good standing and can take part in contests. So somebody called me and said, this club hasn't paid their dues, but let them participate in the contest. And me being me, and I said, it's not fair to the others who paid their dues on time, and therefore, but this person was very adamant, very senior in the organization, and I'd just been here a few years and was trying to find my way. And I stood my ground. They said that when you have principles, you have to stand like a rock. You can't go with the flow like a current. It's not a fashion that you just follow with the current. It's a principle which you stand by like a rock. And I stood rock solid and I said, I'm really sorry, but this club and these contestants cannot take part. And that is how deep and what integrity means to me, that it is against all odds that you stand on your own. Sometimes you have to stand alone, but it doesn't matter, because when you are holding on to your values, you are not there to please somebody else. You are there for your own beliefs, and that is what you are standing for. So yes, doing that and teaching the little children right from the beginning that these things are important. If they've not done their homework, they have to say, we've not done our homework. It was not that you have to make excuses. So once we start making those excuses when we are little, then it just becomes a habit to make excuses, to find something whereby it doesn't matter. So children were taught, you've not done your homework, it's okay, you do it tomorrow. And so also the parents learned, because oftentimes the parents would come and make excuses, but the children would, own up to, I slept late, miss, or I didn't have time, or somebody. It was always so sweet and so healthy that I think those were the best years, really teaching children, grooming them to become good, responsible adults.
I think
And
you
you brought
miss
those
those
values
days, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, I really do miss Ron.
Yeah, we
I
have a lot
miss
of
those
children in the
teaching
district
days.
also, don't worry.
No, but
Yeah.
Ron, I feel like Mukta ma'am, you have brought those values and those principles to Toastmasters. And I think that's a great addition, right? Because we have fantastic leaders in our district. I personally know that. But when it comes to values, that is also an important subject that we need to talk about. And I'm so glad you brought this point up, starting with integrity, like being true to yourself and true to your principles. Can you tell us some of your core values, especially when it comes to leadership? Integrity is one, absolutely, I've got that. But apart from integrity, what do you stand
So,
for and why?
our Toastmasters' second value is respect, and that too is very, very important. And it doesn't have to be the kind of respect where you just smile and pretend to be respectful and touch somebody's feet. And I'm sorry, I'm not taking away from customs and things that people follow. I've not done that, but I never thought that that was a requirement to show respect. Instead, if you stood true to what you believed in, that was respect. Now, let me tell you what respect to me really means. It means coming to a meeting on time. That shows respect. If the Toastmaster of the day or the Zoom master says, put off your cameras or put them on, that is being respectful. Because I have been to meetings where the entire leadership has not turned on their camera. And I used to be the only one seeing my own face. And I thought, why is this happening? Is this respectful? I thought it was very disrespectful. Because if you are having a meeting, let me see. Ron, are you smiling? Are you nodding? Are you disagreeing with me? I'd like to see those things, I'd like to see that agreement. So these things are very essential. And this I learned again very early from my family, but this lesson was drilled into me when I was in catering college at Dadar. The principal over there was Thangam Philip. She's absolutely, she's known all over the country as the person who started hospitality education in India. And I was lucky to be in the college for 4 years under her. When she took a class, she was never a minute late. She never, ever came late. She respected us as students. So we learned if the principal of a college can be there always on time, why should we ever be late, So that is when we learned how to respect one another, your colleagues, your seniors, it doesn't matter. Respecting time means respecting everybody else. So yes, respect is a very important quality or value that I hold close. Also a little bit of a boast. In my entire 10 years of teaching, I have never been late to school. Not a single day have I taken leave, and I have never, ever been late to school. And that is what I learned, and that is what I practiced. So And of course, circumstances change. Joe, Ron, I mean, the world is different. We are in such a crowded era of our life. There are accidents, traffic, and people genuinely cannot sometimes show up on time. But one has to prepare and for eventualities and respect everybody's time thing. Recently, I was at a meeting where somebody had 5 minutes to speak and spoke for 40 minutes. And I thought, stay with the agenda, be respectful of everybody else who's there. And so these are little things, but they mean a lot to me. And that is how who I am and what I stand for. Another value, so another one is humility and loyalty. And these are also extremely important to me, to be humble. I am no better than anybody else. I don't need to have an ego. I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. So I don't need to pretend about it. And I think you can see people who are graceful and gracious, big, powerful people, and yet they talk to everybody, and they are kind, and they'll ask the security man or the watchman or the waiter or anything, what is his name, and show so much politeness and humility. I think that is also something I really admire. I watch, I learn, and it is something. And then, of course, loyalty. I have friends from almost 70 years ago. I've given you my age. And, and friends from my kindergarten and school and college, and friends that I've known for 50 plus years. I am always friends with them. I'm loyal to them. So these are some of the other qualities that are very essential to me, and I really value it in others. Yeah.
I think if you
So
just
I'll tell you why this is.
just take this little bit of clip from this interview, and it could just be a masterclass in how to be great and greatness. You can just say that.
So I'll tell you, Ron, what I was feeling right now. We have all heard about respect, loyalty, humility, right? Integrity. But very few people show that in action. From my childhood, I'm also listening to all these things: be respectful, be humble, be loyal. But very few people embody the values in their life. Like, very few people walk the talk. And when you said, I have friends back from 70 years of my life, I realized that is a fantastic, and I think the ultimate example of loyalty. Today, we have so many people right now live in the podcast. That is also an example of the loyalty and your friendship that you have sustained and been a part of, right? You spoke about respect, and such a great lesson for Toastmasters, because this is something that we all struggle with: how to make people understand the value of time. Right. Respect is something that you earn when you give. So when you respect somebody else's time, that is when you will be given the respect. I hope everybody who's listening to this podcast, humbly I request you, let's all be on time, start the meeting on time, end the meeting on time. If Mukta madam can do it for 10 years as a teacher, then I'm sure we can do this on alternate Sundays or Saturdays or whenever our meetings are happening. We can, as she said, prepare for eventualities and be there on time. So many values you embody in your life. What is coming to my mind is two things. One, if somebody is so true to their values and principles, I don't think their path must be easy. You must have faced a lot of challenges. And I just want to know, how do you overcome the challenges? Because this is something personally I also have a problem with. When I stand true to my principles, and I'm sure everybody in this room and everybody who's going to listen, when we stand true to our principles and values, we often ruffle feathers. We often have to, butt heads with people. And that is where the challenge lies, right? How to overcome that challenge, yet true to be your value, and yet be a leader. Because as a leader, we cannot just think of ourselves. We have to think of the team, the organization. So how do you manage this scenario? where you are a leader, you have to think about everyone, yet stay true to yourself?
Yeah, so that is really difficult, Joe. It's a real challenge, especially, I mean, if you're alone in the corner and you don't have any responsibilities or goals or accountability, it's fine. You know, you can deal with it and walk away. But when you are leading a large team, like when I was district director and we had 280 clubs almost in our district, it was a challenge because everybody has different expectations and different ideas. But when there is a challenge, the first thing to do, what happened to me is I went quiet. I used to go into a shell. I never reacted because that would only aggravate the situation. So I would keep quiet for a while, sometimes several days. And that also backfired on me because people who wanted quick answers thought I wasn't capable of giving those answers. But that was my reaction to a challenge, a bad situation. So I kept quiet. And when I got answers to what was expected, then without any pride, without any ego, without showing any hurt, I would answer it. If it was accepted, so be it. If it wasn't, that was also okay, because everybody can't really gel sometimes together. But it is, you have to look at the greater good. If you cannot handle a deck, for example, if you cannot handle your team, your core team, you still have to work beyond that and say, I have 4,000, 5,000 members who are expecting that things go according to plan, that schedules are maintained, timetables are maintained, contests happen, the annual conference happens. So your little squabble or your little disagreement with your team is not the end of the world. It's not the most important thing. You have to let go. And another thing that I learned is it is very easy to make a huge fuss and a big hue and cry about it. But it's only going to cause you sleepless nights because other people may not feel so badly about it, and they will carry on with their lives. And you have to realize that I have to serve a much, much larger team, many, many division directors, area directors. And believe you me, when I was district director, we had an executive committee of 93 people. It wasn't a team of 16 and 20 and 25, 93 officers at a deck meeting. Obviously, even 4 people sometimes can't get together and agree and be on the same page. So it was a big challenge, but one I feel happy that taught me a lot. And I think for the most part, I was good to almost everybody.
Let me ask you one question. When you took on this leadership role, district director, what is the one thing that surprised you? The one thing you had to adapt, which you were not prepared for in the leadership journey? Something that shocked you, something that you had to change in yourself to cope with such a huge responsibility? Because for a lot of people, when they take up leadership, sometimes they feel that, okay, they're not ready, and suddenly a lot of things get piled on their plate. So what was the thing that kind of shook you a little bit, and then maybe you found a way to cope with it?
Yeah, so Ron, in my journey in leadership in District 98, I have stood for 5 elections. Okay, I won the first as a division governor. I stood twice for PQD. I won one, lost one. I stood twice for district director. I won one, lost one. So first of all, just the learnings in elections taught me a lot. But when I finally won these positions, the thing that really shook me was how much bitterness there is against a person who wins. I was not prepared for that. I was not wanted in those positions. So right from day one, there was animosity. There was, and I dealt with it because I stood for it. I wanted it. I had put my hat in the ring, right, for it. So I shouldn't have been surprised that I had won against many odds. But I knew that I was able, I was capable, I had the right credentials, I had the right values to take on this role and be at the helm of it. You know, Indira Gandhi, as the Prime Minister, always said, it's very lonely at the top. And that's exactly how it was. It was often very lonely, but I have to give credit to a small team of people who always rallied. And one of them, and my husband is sitting here, we've been married almost 50 years, believe it or not. And we've been Toastmasters right from day one through thick and thin. So he knows everything about Toastmasters, and he was always my sounding board. So when things got tough, he was always there to give very good advice and calm me down and see me through and never let and renege on my responsibilities to myself. So yes, things were tough. Those were things that really opened my eyes. There were letters. There was a lot of unpleasant mail, talks. And one thing today, I'm going to say that at the end, but now that you asked me, one thing that I genuinely want, not for myself, not for District 98, 125, 126, but for humanity, is not to pull somebody down. When you run for a position, when you run for elections, when you run for anything, stand on your strengths, promote your strengths. I stood for it because I believed in my own strength, but I never along the way said, you know, don't go with this one or that one. And I think that is something that happens a lot. It happens very frequently. And it is something that, again, I shy away from. I go into my shell when I see too much of it. But it is one thing that I think we can be better, much better human beings and much better Toastmasters, where we have so much to give if we did not bring this negativity into it, and especially putting people down. They don't deserve it.
I think it would be fair to say that when things get tough, especially in leadership, counting on our values, banking on our values is very important, to stay steadfast to our values. I think that's something how you can get through the toughest of times. And as a leader, obviously, you are never going to please everybody. So that's something I think every leader who reaches a very high position gets to know, and maybe sometimes they are surprised by it, but it's a part of leadership that you will not make everybody happy.
Right.
As long as you're true to your values, I think, and you've proven that, you will sail through it. You will go through it properly. Is that fair? That's fair, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You have to have the strength and the courage to stand your ground. You know, you don't have to ruffle feathers. You don't have to get into unnecessary arguments or something. And if you can't take it, then just walk away. You know, but if you can take it and you can show people that that is the right thing to do, and with that you are successful, then I think there are others who are watching it, learning from it, and appreciating it. Everybody doesn't have the courage to come out and say, hey, you know, great going and things like that. But in their minds, they understand, they appreciate it, they respect it, and what more? And you have stood true to yourself, and hopefully you have been an example to somebody else as well. So I think these are important to me. Yeah, Joe.
No, ma'am, I'll tell you, first of all, thank you for being so honest about it. Not everyone who comes on the podcast, or for that matter, any podcast, you know, comes out and so honestly speaks about the bitterness and the loneliness that you spoke about so candidly. Thank you so much. Because I think people only see the fanfare, the celebrity status, the power at any position, not just in Toastmasters, my dear friends, but any position of leadership and power that you take, you will always see the good things, right? You will always see the light bulbs and the stars. But what about the bitterness and loneliness that every leader faces? How do you do that? So the next question I was gonna ask you, ma'am, was then why? Why should I be a leader? And you gave me an answer even before the question, so that you can show other people that it can be done. You can stay true to your values, you can stay true to who you are, and yet be a good leader and serve people. Thank you so much. I'm speechless right now. I also have a positive bias towards you because you're a woman, and that makes me even more proud of the fact that, because let us face the fact, it's not easy for women. Though I feel Toastmasters is quite a level playing field when it comes to the gender roles. And personally, I have found more encouragement, more support than anything else in this fraternity, and I'm really grateful for that. But being a woman in the 90s, to fight and win and get into that position and serve and be at the top and lead a group of men and women, I'm sure that must have been very hard. You must have had faced a lot of ego issues, but you have soared through flying colors with your values. And thank you so much for sharing that story with us. This is not fair. It's already 8:44. Where does the time fly? I always ask this question, but it's true. We have just touched the surface of the, what do you say, ice right now, Ron, and it's already 44 minutes in. If anybody has any special question for Mukta madam, you can put that in the chat box, and Ron and I will pick up the question and address it to her. So please do type your questions in the chat box. Meanwhile, Mukta ma'am, now that you've done it, been there, been the leader, been a great speaker, learned all the lessons and shared them, what do you think right now, the current Toastmasters fraternity that we have, the current generation of leaders that we have, what do we need to think about? What do we need to learn and focus on? What advice would you give to somebody like me, who personally am not into leadership and I'm not looking forward to becoming a leader because of the things that you really spoke about, right? The bitterness, that animal, the loneliness and all those things. So I always shy. So what is the advice you would give to the current generation?
You know, I am so in awe of the young generation. I mean, I think there may be 2 or 3 generations below me. You know, somebody who's 18 could well be my grandson or even great. I don't know. But I just love how smart everybody is, how energetic everybody is, how savvy they are, self-assured, they know what they want. In fact, I often take lessons in how to navigate through Facebook. Last weekend, I was asking somebody to help me on Insta. You know, I love learning and I see all of that. But they need to get that foundation right. Yeah, they need to have the value system, because they can be absolutely spectacular and great with just a little guidance of who they are and what they need to believe in to take them forward. Everything isn't murky, doesn't have to be murky, and there doesn't have to be a shortcut to everything. If you have to go through some challenges to get to where you want, then so be it. And that is something that they need to learn. One other thing that I have seen in the last many years in Toastmasters, I'm going to refer to Toastmasters, is that many young people who want to be leaders get bullied into not standing for various roles. And I know it. People have called me personally, and I am not just imagining this thing. They have been told that they cannot take up leadership. Now, just imagine you are a young person, talented, wanting to grow, wanting to make mistakes too, because you can't do anything without making mistakes. You can't learn without making mistakes. But if you don't give somebody an opportunity to make mistakes because it doesn't fit into your agenda of things, and you can bully somebody to step down, I think the young people need to stand. I mean, it's okay to give speeches in clubs and, you know, do table topics and the pathways and all. But the true voice is when you speak speak up for yourself, when you speak up for somebody who has been, uh, who has been bullied, for a better word, you have to do that. You have to turn the wrong into right. I will tell you again, when I was district director, one of my officers was somebody instigated that that person was not honest, was not true. And I knew, I could swear on him that he was as good as gold. He was clean, but people just wanted to bully and say. So I think the youth of today, with all their savviness, with all the energy they have, the skills, they want to grow, they have ambitions, they have to learn to stand up for themselves and to have a good, solid foundation of values. For me, values is everything, and everything else can only bloom with a foundation of good values. Yeah.
Let me ask you a follow-up, Mukta. As a senior Toastmaster in clubs, one of the areas which I try to focus on is to encourage people like Joanne to take up leadership roles. And I see a lot of kind of resistance among among them to take up leadership role for whatever reasons. They don't want to have the responsibility, they don't have time there. So what would you say to Joanne, for example, to encourage her to take leadership and get the value out of leadership that is there? Because I think if you don't take up leadership roles in Toastmasters, I think you are missing a huge part of Toastmasters. It's like you went to dinner at a five-star hotel and you just missed the dessert. It's completely like that. So what would you say to somebody like Joanne and a lot of our younger Toastmasters were kind of reluctant to get into leadership?
So Joanne, and to everybody like you, I mean, you all are so special. You all are, like I said, so talented, but you need to taste, like Ron says, a little bit of that. Because through that, imagine how many people you can influence, how many people you can make an impact with, if you are that good leader, having the skills, the talent, the drive, the desire to do all of that, and yet taking up for your team. When you take up for that team, you just get this whole new strength within yourself, and you give other people so much strength. Yes, taking up leadership role is important. I say it to all the great people who come and win all the contests on stage year after year after year, and they are happy to remain in that little cocoon. Of course, we learn a lot from the great speakers on stage, but imagine how much more they could give to our community and Toastmasters. Yes, leadership is something that everybody should experience. Yes, Ron, I totally endorse that.
Wow.
I think it's a very important part of Toastmasters.
And I'll tell you, Ron, I have goosebumps right now. And I'll tell you why. I've heard a lot of people talk about leadership, but one thing, Mukta ma'am, you told today, which hit me so hard is, what is your true voice? We join Toastmasters to become better speakers, to become better communicators. And you said true voice is when you speak up for yourself and for others. And you can only use your true voice when you become a leader, because that is when you will get that opportunity to speak up for yourself and others. And that made me think, isn't then leadership also a part of communication? Because it's an expression, not just to lead, but also to explore your voice, which will be a representation for other people who are not yet there and who are not yet able to voice their concerns or their desires or demands. As a leader, I think you become someone who speaks for everyone. So that was a eureka moment for me, because I've never thought of leadership as an expression of a group voice or a group mentality. I've always thought that as more of a position. So thank you so much for bringing that perspective on leadership and talking about the true voice. And I'm sure your message to all the younger generation and people who are hesitant to become leaders, I'm sure your message is going to hit hard to a lot of people. And I hope this podcast reaches a lot of people out there, whether they are veterans or youngsters, doesn't matter, because this is an aspect of leadership that very few people talk about. We talk about the skills, the technicalities, the matrix that you need to learn to become a leader, but very few talk about values. Thank you so much for sharing that aspect. Last question to you, ma'am, because, and I'm telling you, it's with a heavy heart, I say the last question, because it's already 8:53, and I'm thinking, like Cyril has mentioned, we need a part two. Ron, we need to make this a multi-part episode, and I am sure Ron will work on that, and I'm sure, Mukta ma'am, we need you back because this is like scratching the surface. There's so much more to learn and so much more to hear. So many stories I'm sure that will come out of you and your experience. But one last question. How do you mentor the upcoming leaders in values? What do you think as Toastmasters or as general leaders we need to do to ensure that values are being taught and inculcated or instilled in the upcoming leadership generation? What would you suggest? Some tips and tricks.
Again, very simple. I mean, all you have to do is get them to feel what is right is right. You know, I had gone as the program quality director, I had gone for mid-year training to Chennai, and Dan Rex, our CEO, was there. And the one thing he said has always stayed in my mind. I knew it, but he kind of said it. He said, don't ever walk that red carpet at the Hall of Fame. You know, at the international conventions, we have one day when we have the Hall of Fame, when all the distinguished districts of the world get an opportunity to go and meet with our CEO and international president, etc., get plaques and rewards and awards. He said, don't ever come up on the stage and walk that Hall of Fame if you have not rightly deserved it or won it. Now, when you are mentoring somebody at club level or even that area or division or district, you've got to tell them that everything that you earn, every award that you earn, every has to be true and has to be rightly done. These days in Pathways, it is so easy just to sign off on a project and say, I've done it. To sign off on a level and say, I've done that level. I finished a path. I finished 7 paths. It's so easy. But where is your integrity? So these are the things that you tell your mentee when you are a mentor to somebody in the club, when you are a guide to the entire ExCom of the club. Doesn't matter. Let's take it slow. Let's plan. That's why we have club success plans. That's why we have district success plans, so that we can plan to do what is right for ourselves and for others. It is no point having paper clubs. It is no point in clubs which are dying to resurrect them by adding members that don't even belong to that region, just so that they will survive and so that you will be at that Hall of Fame. I did not do it. It was very easy for me not to do. And everybody said, you know, after a long legacy of District 98 to be distinguished and presidents distinguished, there was even more pressure to perform. But circumstances did not allow it, and my own value system did not allow it. So today I will tell all those who are mentors, mentees, do by yourself and by others what is absolutely right.
And authenticity. Authenticity yes. Is important. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice.
Wow. Before we wrap up, and I'll tell you, this message is resonating in me, and I'm thinking, how authentic are we, and how much we more need to have this conversation on value systems in Toastmasters, especially with the ExCom and the leaders at the club level. Let's not just talk about the district, even at the basic club level. This is something maybe I think you guys can think about becoming a TMOD next time and taking up value in leadership as a topic. Go to this podcast, episode 6 of season 2, and I'm sure you can get a lot of tips and tricks from Mukta madam and her career. What is value and what is integrity in leadership? Thank you so much, Mukta madam. But before we sign off, there's one question. What are the differences in your viewpoint between Toastmasters in Saudi Arabia and India? And I think this is an important question because you have that vast experience. So somebody wants to know what's the difference there.
So I saw Ramnathan over there. I think he's in the audience because I just saw his name somewhere.
This is
He and I
interesting.
are good old friends from Saudi Arabia, and you all know how wonderful he is, how much he has just brought to the community in Mumbai, Thane, Godbandar, everywhere I see him. And that is it. In Saudi, when we started our journey, him, me, and there is Sheikh Shakil, there are other, Lancy was there. We just had a good time. All we wanted to do was to give back and have a good time. We never really thought about leadership and getting things done the not so right way or whatever, it was just larger than life enjoyment and giving back to the community. And I've seen Ramnathan going up on the stage. I see how he mentors people, how much respect everybody has for him. And that's exactly, those are the core values we learned over there. Things were a little different when I came over here because there is a lot more, there is a lot of passion here in Toastmasters, but may not be in the right way, or it's different. I mean, I have had different experience and each one of them has been a learning.
Thank you so much. Ron, before we wrap up, what do you think? Any last words for tonight, for this episode?
I think I completely agree. We need a second round with Mukta, definitely, and we'll schedule that sometime in the future. And this podcast will keep going on, and I think we'll have a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth and a seventh round with her also, hopefully, as we go ahead. But I'm really grateful for her to come here and share so honestly and candidly her experience. And I'm really so happy to know you, Mukta. I'm really grateful for your advice, for your kindness, for your smile every time we meet. It really is wonderful. And I'm so proud to have you on my podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you so much, Joe.
Any last words for tonight, Mukta madam? Leading with value, leader in service. You, I think, embody that. And with your experience and your stories, you have proven that you walk the talk. Any last message for all our audiences and viewers out there who are also going to listen to this, like back home on YouTube or on Spotify?
Oh yeah,
What would
on
you
their
like to
walk,
tell them?
while going for a walk and all that. So,
While going for a walk, exactly. There are many people who do that on the train, in the vehicle, wherever they are. Any last messages for our viewers?
Yeah, so my last closing will be, just live your life with fun the way it is meant to be. Don't try and change the direction of things that are not meant for you or for. Do it honestly, have fun, have a good night's sleep, like they say. When you do things well, you just can sleep well. You don't need that good rum and coke to put you to bed. So I think enjoy your speeches, your voice, your leadership, and spread it around. Give it to others. Yeah, that's what I would. That's what I like to do, and hope everybody else also takes a leaf from there.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Mukta Nadkar, madam. Ron, do you have anything to say, or should I go into the summary mode quickly?
Yes, the last samurai.
The last samurai. How do you summarize 18 plus years of experience? How do you summarize so much value, integrity, and ethical knowledge in a couple of minutes that you have spoken about in an hour? It's impossible, but let me give it a try. Thank you so much, first of all, distinguished Toastmaster Mukta Nadkar, madam, to grace us on our show and impart your knowledge, your wisdom, and your value system to all of us out here. We take things for granted. That's the first lesson I learned from you, because imagine the challenges that Madam Toastmaster had in Saudi Arabia just to be present and speak. It was a challenge in 92, 98, those eras. But now in 2024, we take it for granted. In fact, we easily give up, right? Our roles, our slots. We say, oh, I'm busy, I'm not going there. Lesson learned, don't take things for granted. We are right now standing on the shoulders of the giants, like Ron said. So let us be grateful for the opportunities that these veterans Toastmasters have created for us right now. Challenges in leadership, from solo to managing a team. Someone who was just a teacher, a solo entrepreneur, a hotelier, from there directly jumping into Toastmasters as a leader, managing a team in the club, the XCOM group, and from there managing a team of 93 as the district director. Just imagine the amount of challenges that Madam Toastmaster had to go through. But she says one thing that stood out for her is leadership is give, help, impart knowledge. That's all it is. And she stands for these values: giving, helping, and imparting knowledge. And if you stand for these values, then it doesn't matter what your past is, what your experience is. Go join, be a leader in Toastmasters. You will always get an opportunity to learn and do something great. We are talking about values in leadership today. No one better can describe values, I think, than Mukta madam, because she's not just a Toastmaster, she's also a teacher. So she has that background and experience of imparting values to children. She says fundamental basic values are sacrosanct to any leader. And what are these fundamental basic values? Let's start with integrity. Stand on your own against all odds. You need to be true to yourself. And integrity is a core value that every leader needs to have. Otherwise, excuses can become a habit. And for all of us there, guilty of excuses, including me, when we said, I'm sorry, I cannot take that role, I'm busy. And Ron knows that because he keeps on teasing me that you're too busy. Something to think about. Am I being true to myself? Are you standing true to your own integrity? Respect is something else she spoke about. And I'll tell you what a beautiful perspective Mukta madam brought to respect. Imagine just turning up on time for your meetings, just taking up the roles and respecting the allotted time given to you. That is the embodiment of respect. You don't need to be humble. You don't need to show off. You don't need to be extra polite. Just respect time. And that is the greatest respect you can give anyone in Toastmasters and even outside. Humility and loyalty. Humility is being powerful yet gracious, something I think you can learn from her directly. You can also learn from Ron, I think, though Ron, you do have your times and PJs, but still, humility with power and grace with power is something that we can learn from both of them. But loyalty is something I'll tell you, truly, ma'am, I'm learning from you. You have friends for more than 50 years. I don't have friends, I think, even for 15 years. I'm not even friends with my school friends right now. So I'm thinking I need to go and re-examine my definition of loyalty, something to think about loyalty in leadership and how do you define loyalty? Overcoming challenges. We spoke about challenges in leadership positions, and she says the first thing she does is she goes silent. Now, that is something personal and something for you guys to think about. Do you want to react or do you want to go silent? Learn to let go and not make a fuss. Think about the larger picture. The bigger picture is service. The bigger picture is the team, is the organization. No, it's every single member Toastmaster that you're serving. So think about them and understand that ultimately the things that need to happen will happen and should happen. So you need to keep your individual ego. You need to keep your individual problem aside and think of the greater good. One thing that she had to change and adapt, we spoke about that, and this is so important. I'll tell you, my dear friends, candidly, very honestly, Mukta madam spoke about the bitterness, the unpleasantness, and loneliness that leaders have. And I think right now, millennials as well as Gen Z leaders, we shy from taking these leadership roles because of this one aspect of loneliness and bitterness. But so rightly said, right? If you are capable, if you have the credential, then remember, you have to go through these challenges. You have to go through this loneliness. And why? Why do we need to go? So that we can show other people that it can be done. Take her as an example, take Ron as an example, take all great leaders in Toastmasters as well as outside Toastmasters an example who have stood true to their values, yet be great leaders. Show people how to do it, and so that they can learn and get the encouragement to do better than you. That's why you need to be a leader, even though you have to go through these challenges. And she says one of the biggest lessons as a humanity that you need to learn is stand for your strengths. Don't pull on somebody else's weaknesses. I think this also shows character, right? What kind of character do you have? If you are somebody who stands for your strengths and other strengths, rather than pulling down on somebody else's weakness, something to think about and learn in Toastmasters and beyond. Advice to young generation, get your value systems right. I'm telling you, my dear friends, 2024 is starting. You have your to-do list, you have your resolutions. Let's now slide in those value systems right.
Hello, Joanne.
Leadership is not just about title and power, but it's about the true voice. Yes, Ron, is there any problem?
Dipped for a little while. I think the net went down. Continue.
Thank you so much. But yeah, I am back, and I'll not stop by talking about the true voice, right? Even the voice has dipped. Remember the true voice. What is a true voice? The true voice is the voice that you stand for other people, not just for yourself. As Toastmasters, we are thinking about how to become great speakers, how to lure in the audience, how to win the contest, how to win the points, how to take back the awards. But think about it. When you become a leader, you're not just your own voice. You're now a voice of a group of people. And that is power. And that is a privilege that many of us give up on. So think about leadership. Think about developing your true voice and turning the wrong into right. Finally, she says, leaders influence people and impact people. That is why you need to take up leadership roles, to influence, impact people. And that will be a lifelong lesson. And her life itself is a journey, I feel, an example of true leader. There's so much more in this podcast, not just this summary. So go back and listen to the podcast on Spotify or on YouTube. We will be sharing the links with you. Thank you so much. You have been a fantastic audience. And it has been, I'll tell you, an exceptionally exciting and humbling podcast for me. What a way to start the first episode of 2024, episode 6, season 2, Lead to Serve, with distinguished Toastmaster Mukta Nadkar, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so much, Ron. Really enjoyed this evening. Thank you.